Hello, I'm Kochanski, wilderness living skills and survival instructor of many years. I want to bring your attention to the work we've been doing in producing videos to cover the information that is in short supply in many of our sources on wilderness skills, bushcraft and survival knowledge. We have here very new developments. There's two videos, one on fire and one on the birth of fire, and then a video on shelter, and then a 2-volume set on plants that harm. The fires are covering information that is very difficult if you are at all able to find this information anywhere else. You likely will have a hard time finding something that has been covering the techniques and so on in the detail we do here. We have the fires video and the birth of fire. They cover a wide range of knowledge with regard to the type of fires to use and how to ignite these under adverse conditions. The situation here is we have the 3 videos on techniques. They cover about 2 hours of information each with regard to fires and shelter. So you got 6 hours of new information. Now, one of the videos we found that we couldn't fit the twig torch, so we have chosen to put this on YouTube. So if people want to get a flavor of the type of information and how it's presented on these videos, you would find it on YouTube. The videos here are an attempt to organize the information and knowledge in a way that that people today who are anxious to get started with the right foot, this is the first type of information they should lay their hands on. We have 2 more videos on plants, Volume 1 and Volume 2 on plants that harm. Each cover over 30 plants. This is in addition to the 7 videos already done a few years ago covering 250 of the most common plants of the boreal forest. A person who really wants to start off on the right foot masters these plants during the winter. Probably if you had a blitz, you could master all 9 videos in a matter of a week or 2, and then when you really start working with plants, you probably cut off 2 or 3 years of effort in acquiring the background knowledge of the most useful plants, and especially those that you might consider valuable in survival. We are attempting to provide information in a concentrated form. There's not much time spent amusing anybody or whatever. It's all pure knowledge. You play the video for a while, absorb it, start it up again. Anything that gives you problems, play it over and over again. You will learn a lot of these techniques a lot more quickly and more effectively watching a video than you might actually learn if you're participating in the events yourself, or at any rate you don't get so much smoke in your eyes or get so bitten by mosquitoes when you're dealing with the plants and when you're sitting around the campfire trying to learn and your eyes are smarting from the amount of smoke that goes on. We hope you will find these very useful and agree with us that there is just nothing that you can find elsewhere that compares to what you might find in these videos. We also remind you that there are 4 more videos that were made earlier, one on sticks and everything you can do with a straight stick, like a Roycroft snowshoe, Roycroft pack frame, a buck saw, walking staff, and so on. There's one video on clothing, dressing, the way that I feel you need to dress in order to be able to work in the out of doors and cope with survival situations. There is a video on knots that pertain very directly to the out of doors and survival, and a video on tools, knives, axes, and sharpening. And combined with these and the ones that we plan to bring out in the future, you virtually have a university education in the area of survival and bushcraft. We continue to produce the information. We have changed booklets into a downloadable form in the Kobo, I believe, that you can order off the internet rather than to deal with snail mail. And there is presently still 17 topics, but very shortly there will be maybe 100 additional topics that are being worked on between now and this time next year. We hope you find these videos informative, compact, and valuable. That's what we are striving to produce in the information age. Here is a small version of the twig torch, which is readily made with generally spruce twigs. If you don't have spruce twigs, I guess it's not easy to make. This is about a 15-minute torch. So we'll go through the construction of the torch. We first of all take a handful that's a little bigger than normal and tie it so that it stays firmly together. You may go the natural way, or you may purposely bring string. The early versions of this were snare wire, but generally we find that for our purposes this will sufficient. Snare wire has the advantage that as the burning occurs, the bundle doesn't pop apart because the snare wire doesn't burn through. So you have a little less flying embers. At a hand span, the initial bunch are tied twice. You don't want this too tight because it won't burn very well. The ideal spacing is about a finger between every twig, but we don't want it to burn that furiously. Then we part this and put a handful in the parted branch. The torch is used to give you light when you're caught by darkness in the winter. The torch, as it burns, it sheds all kinds of burning particles, so this is very good for backfiring and when you're fighting against forest fires. Instead of using the cans with diesel fuel in them dribbled, you just drag the torch and you set the fire as you walk along. So in the winter, this is relatively safe. Another handful. Again, open up the middle. Pencil thick ends may last a little longer because this is a fire that's way up in the air. So you got to have the right critical amount. And generally, if you produce a circle like this of twigs, you know it's going to work. Too much is better than too little, because too little, you just will not have enough. So air in the direction of the for every meter or yard, you get 10 to 20 minutes depending on the wind. Strong wind, this burns much faster with a greater intensity. So a source of light, when you have to fell a tree and it's dangerous to do so in darkness, to stick in the fire and then stick under your signal fire to light it, perhaps to signal in some cases. Now the ends that are all over, just like with a regular twig bundle, are folded or broken or trimmed, because individually in the middle of nowhere they tend not to burn because they're too widely spaced. So by doing this, you'll be able to get the fire started. In bear country, if you're intimidated by bears after dark, you get a twig torch, you hear one coming, light it and chase away the bear. There we have a torch. Now it'll tend to have a curl to it. You can make it straight, but the curl actually gives you an advantage that somehow with your setting this torch up, when you have to let go of it, you drive a stake in the ground and you can drive it part way up the torch. The torch in some cases
when it's windy is as vertical as possible. In some cases, when the torch is damp and there is no wind, you often find that the torch may even have to point downward a little bit for it to continue burning. So you've got to sort of experiment, and you will find a way to make it burn. If you're carrying it, there's enough draft that you will find that you can't put it out no matter how hard you swish it once it's burning. But you stick a stick in the ground, then you can stick this, and then you can go off and fell your tree. You go to the bathroom. It's always nice to be able to see what you're about when you're in total darkness. Stick the torch in, and then generally you might stick it in the snow to put it out, and then dry it off, and it's ready for the next time. So it probably wouldn't hurt to have 3 or 4 of them about camp.